Okay, nice to meet you everyone. So my name is Krasimira Maslarova. I'm from Sofia, Bulgaria. I'm a product manager here at SoftServe, and I greet everyone from Sofia to Amsterdam and from all over the world. And also, I'm very glad to be here together with you at this hybrid event. And to this extraordinary meeting where Pranav Pathak, product manager from Meta, will share his experience about some important topic for all product managers. This is metrics, and metrics that really matters. And in Sofia and Amsterdam venues, community members gathered in order to enjoy and discuss after Pranav's meeting. And I hope a lot of community members will join online to share the emotions together with you and together with all of us. So hello again to everyone, wherever you are. And this PM night event is initiated by ambassadors of product management festivals. These ambassadors are Product Management Community Center and SoftServe team here at Sofia, together with ambassador from Miro. This is Sultan. And now I'm pleased to pass the word to Sultan and Pranav and Amsterdam. Hello again.
Hello, everyone. Yes, let me introduce myself. I'm product lead in Miro, and I'm also an ambassador, as Krasimira mentioned, for PMF, and PMF is Product Management Festival. It's a special event today because we tried for the first time. Before pandemic hit, we were doing that just in person. So people would come, they would have beer, have networking, plus they will listen to a couple of talks. Then the pandemic hit and we had to do that remote. It worked somehow, but then as soon as we came out of pandemic, we are now thinking, okay, how do we bring community closer to each other? How do we facilitate more conversations about product? And that's why we try this event in the hybrid mode. And even in terms of setup, it was quite a struggle, but somehow we made it work. Yeah, it's a special event again, because we have people in person in Amsterdam. We have people in person joining from Bulgaria. Plus we have a bunch of participants connecting online. So welcome everyone. And just a couple of words about Product Management Festival. PMF has, apart from these kind of events when people do meet locally in different parts of the world, including Amsterdam, PMF has two conferences throughout the year, one in APAC in Singapore and one is in Zurich. And the last time I was to this conference was in Zurich in November last year. I think what I like the most about the conference is that it's in 2 days, you have multiple slots and you are the participant who decides what to choose, what kind of topic you want to listen to. So imagine you have several slots per day and then you have speakers who pitch their talk, and then you decide, okay, this talk makes sense for me. I like how the speaker talks about this kind of topic, and then you go and to specific room and listen only to that. So this is great. I enjoy it a lot, and in November it was really great to see, after pandemic, 500 people meeting together, and that's where I actually met with Svetlana, and we were discussing, okay, how do we do now pandemic is almost over, how do we do events again? And then we had an idea that hey, why don't we do that across 2 countries? And that's how this event emerged. So I hope this event will be really interesting for everyone, and yeah, feel free to be not just an observer but an active participant, so that this conversation becomes more interesting for everyone. Yeah, a little bit about Pranav. I'm sure he will be introducing himself as well. But yeah, we know each other for a long time. We worked together at Booking. Pranav is a former group product manager at Booking. He's now with Meta as a product manager. But he's really a person who is on the crossroad between product and data. And that's why the topic, I think, is really strong for this event. He's managing teams, he's empowering other product managers, and he's really close to the machine learning. So I'm looking forward for this talk, and Pranav, mic to you.
Thank you. That's a very flattering introduction. Thank you so much for that. But yeah, I guess if product managers come in different types of flavors, then my flavor would be data and metrics. That's kind of the topic that resonates most with me. I've been always involved in designing metrics, uh, building on top of those metrics, some ML, AI solutions, tracking those in, kind of really just always been on the data domain. So this topic is super close to me. And like Sultan said, I'm super happy that this is a slightly cozier setting, because this is going to be interactive, and especially for you guys and you guys on the screen who are here, I can see it's going to be a lot of back and forth, right? Because most of my slides are blank and we're going to fill them in together. So that's kind of the agenda. And what we're going to do is we're going to design and build some metrics. And at the end of the session, I'm hoping that you have a framework that I've been using all these years to build metrics, and that you can see how that works in action, and I can kind of leverage some of your thoughts, incorporate those into my framework, and all kind of share some understanding of metrics and take it from there. Does that sound good? Awesome. Show of hands, everyone, just so that I know what a full room looks like. Okay, awesome. Oh yeah. Yeah, no pressure, but if you can switch off your switch on your camera, do switch on your camera, because it's just that much more fun for me to talk to a full room. Okay. Awesome. I gotta get the clicker working. This is always the one thing I'm okay. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Nice. Everyone's seen some sort of a screen like this, right? This is a login screen that somehow has become very fuzzy in my presentation, but the first one has 3 buttons. The second one has 1 button that says login. The first one's button copy actually says sign up, login, or login with Facebook. The second one says login, and that's it. Show of hands, how many of you would pick the first screen for your product? Okay, how many would pick the second screen? Everyone would pick the second screen. Okay. Why? So options. Anyone else?
Because it's simple, more simple than the first one.
More simple.
Like simple is beautiful.
Actually, I can't see both images because they are blurred.
Because they're super blurred, yes. Sorry about that, but the rest of the images are... But yeah, so less options, easier, simpler, all of that. From experience with this screen, the left one actually works better. And I would not know this if I didn't have the right metrics for this screen, because the first point at which users drop off for this screen, it's higher on the left than the right. So I have less users entering the funnel. But at the end of it, I have more users converting on the left screen. And that happens because of the way the product flow is structured. And getting to that flow can only happen when we have the right set of metrics. If I didn't know what to look out for, I would have made the wrong decision. So why do we measure stuff? We measure stuff because it helps us do meaningful stuff, keeps us aligned to what we want to build. It helps us make rational decisions like the one that I would have not made otherwise. And it helps us get general grounding into what we're looking for rather than the micro optimizations that we might want to do. So with that caveat, we're going to be making metrics. We're going to be designing a bunch of metrics, going through a flow and getting to a framework of how I design my metrics and how I feel the framework that I have always works for everyone. So we're going to try it on a few product ideas that you might have so that you can see it in action. So metrics define the heart of your product. They define the reason that your product exists. Therefore, any good metric design starts with understanding the product goal. The product goal, usually I tend to take a very simple product goal in terms of what does the user want to accomplish and what does the business want to accomplish out of the product. And I structure it like this. Build something so that someone can do something on top of it. And this will generate impact by something happening which is good for the business and good for the user. And in practice, it actually looks like this. For Amazon, they try to build a marketplace for everyone to shop online. And this will make shopping convenient. For Booking.com, where I used to work at before now, build a marketplace for budget travelers to book a place to stay on their vacations. This will make travel easier. For Strava, which is my most favorite app of all, build a tracking app for fitness enthusiasts to track and share their activity with others. And this will motivate them towards their fitness goals. So a simple format with simple goal setting, that's where I get to start on my metrics. Let's try one. Who wants to pick a product? Any product you like?
We would go with Zoom.
Okay, let's go with Zoom. Okay, so build a what? What's Zoom? Maybe a platform for anyone and everyone.
Okay.
To communicate on video. And this would make people feel like they're part of a community or make people interact more. Yeah? Or make interactions between people easier or make business easier. It could be whatever. But this is kind of the format that we get Zoom in, right? Like build a platform for everyone to be able to communicate with each other. This will make sure that they can work together better. Kind of fits, right? Next, we define one North Star metric and take guidance from our product goal to do it. A good North Star should answer the question of, are we close to the goal that we set out to achieve? A good North Star is always measurable and it sees the user as well as the business perspective, because no product and no business can exist without having that top line and bottom line revenue balance, and no product or no business can exist without having user. So kind of important to balance out both perspectives. So for something like Amazon, where the goal was to build a marketplace for everyone to shop online, and this will make shopping convenient, Amazon tracks the number of transactions on the marketplace. Booking.com, build a marketplace for budget travelers to book a place to stay. They track the number of rooms booked. Strava tracks the number of activities logged. For Zoom, what should we track? Number of users, number of meetings?
Number of meetings.
Number of meetings.
Okay. Number of meetings per day, week, month, or user? Per week?
Okay.
Okay. Let's go with per week for now. But this is not enough, because we're now measuring what, but not the how. How are we going to get to a higher number of users per week? How are we going to understand what the pain points and friction points of those users are? And what are we going to do about solving those friction points? And that's usually why we need to map out a user flow and construct supporting metrics. How do users accomplish their goals? And based on how users accomplish their goals, how do we move our North Star metric? So a good user flow should usually capture all the essential steps in the journey. It should capture happy and unhappy parts. It should be detailed enough for us to get meaningful insights. And it shouldn't be so detailed that it becomes a distraction from the core behavior. And I have some examples. Both Amazon and Strava, these are super simplified flows, right? We don't get into too many details around tracking a good user journey because this is not a design exercise, this is a data exercise. So for Amazon, a user lands on the website, browses the product, selects a product, makes a payment, takes delivery, is happy or returns the product, and then makes another purchase. That's pretty much the core funnel that any e-commerce company operates on. Nothing too complicated. For something like Strava, a user installs an app, adds friends, starts a workout, finishes a workout, shares the workout, gets likes or comments, and gives likes or comments. That's it. No other actions are technically possible. You could have hygiene actions. You could have stuff like, compare things on Amazon, but they all essentially go to guiding this flow to completion. What I like to do after that is to attach an action plan to every step of the journey. So I get into a frame of mind that says, if I want to have more users land on the website, what do I need to do? And just write down a few ideas there. I've written one in each for an example. So if I want to make more users land on the website for Amazon, I want to make the marketplace more discoverable. If I want more users to browse the product, I want to make sure that the products are more discoverable and easily accessible to the users. If I want them to make a payment, I want to make sure that I have the simplest payment flow possible. Again, super high level ideas. If I want to make sure that there's less returns, for example, I want to ensure that the product quality is high. If I want for my user to make another purchase, I want to make sure that I can reach out to them again and I can kind of nudge them again to start the cycle. Shall we do this exercise for Strava, one step at a time?
Yes.
Cool. If you were to make more users install Strava or any other app for that matter, what would you do? It could be any steps, no wrong answers.
The app should not take much space.
I don't know whether you can hear from Bulgaria, but here we are very active, and our suggestion is that the app would not take much space.
Okay, so reduce the size of the app so that more people are willing to download it.
Mm-hmm.
From the top of the apps.
Yep.
Or probably having them with like most comments, reviews
Pop up for the app with
on the top of the app.
on the top of the app.
Okay, let's moderate it like this. Let's first go with Sofia and then let's go with Amsterdam. Yeah?
Okay.
Yeah. Right. I couldn't hear what was said in Sofia. Can we go again?
Okay, maybe I would like to see the app being like the first one in the App Store, ideally, so that and also see as many reviews as possible, like of course the highest reviews. So that I would definitely choose this one instead of like something else. So that would be an action plan, probably making it visible on the top of the app stores, making it more active in terms of like other users.
Okay, improve App Store ratings. There was a... Okay. Yep.
Okay, we're done.
Okay. Increase outreach, go to other forums, increase the top line, increase visibility, reach out to people outside, right? Yeah, branding. All of these would do what? Yeah, make the product discovery easier so that more people land on the platform, right? I'm going to get to that in a second, but we can already start to see that connection forming here between a secondary metric and the flow that you want to have, right? So documenting this action plan of here's a few things I can do to make sure that users get into every flow starts to become a little bit of an anchor to, okay, this is what this metric is going to look like. And we'll do that in a little bit more detail in a few minutes. Yep, exactly. But just a few notes on the user flow. You've seen that we didn't make a very detailed user flow here. Very different considerations for if you're designing an app, but if you're building the metrics for an app, don't think about the details. Go super high level. Just understand what the key points of friction might be and what the key happy path looks like. Leave it at that. And then, oh, I'm going in the reverse direction. Yeah, and then start to derive your supporting metrics. We talked about make the app more discoverable to users. Why? So that you have more number of new users per day, right? And that's how you're going to understand if you've made the app more discoverable, if more users are coming into the platform, so on and so forth. And then the product ideas that you have on top of that are make sure that the app ranks high on the App Store, or reach out to forums or communities, or get more exposure, and so on and so forth. And you can have that infinite list of ideas. All of them do this one thing of get more new users to the app per day. So that becomes an important supporting metric for us to understand if there are more number of new users, given that our conversion is constant, we're going to have a higher number of users overall, which means for Amazon, where our goal is to have more number of transactions per day, because we have higher users, we're going to have more transactions. That's one supporting metric that you can influence in order to get to the primary metric of get more transactions. Similarly for Zoom, if we get more users top line here, we're going to have more number of calls per week or more number of video chats per week. We do this for every step of the funnel, and we arrive at the supporting metrics that we're after. Browse a product, make product discovery easy, or make sure that the cataloging works fine so that users can browse the products easily, or make sure that categories are visible enough, or make sure that products are more informative, new images, what have you. The goal of all of that is to increase product page, which is a key part of our funnel. So listing down these metrics for every step of the funnel gives us a view of what's the primary metric and what are the most important levers you have in order to be able to drive that primary metric. Let's spend some more time on this. How would we do this for Zoom, which we've been talking about, where our goal is more number of chats per week, conversations per week. And we know that the flow for Zoom looks like a user enters the app, most likely via a link that's been shared by someone else. So user discovers a link, they enter the app, they have the video conference quality is good, and then they close. The next time you reach out to them, they're more willing to download the app, and therefore you have new users, and then you repeat that cycle, right? So every user leads to a new user. Every marketing funnel gets a new user onto this cycle, and all of those new users contribute to the growth of the app, right? So the journey that I would kind of go after for Zoom is land on the product, have the video conference, be satisfied with the quality of the video conference, have another conference, invite other friends. Any other enhancements that you make in order for people to have more of these conferences, like for example, give reactions or have a whiteboard, they essentially contribute to the metric of the number of minutes that are being spent. And they all become kind of optimizations on top of that primary funnel. Once you've done all of that, you need to start deriving health metrics. Because so far we've talked about what's going right with the product. We haven't talked about what's going wrong. And a lot can go wrong. And health metrics help identify what's going wrong. This is again the Amazon funnel. We want to track the number of new users per day. One easy way to game this metric is to spam as many users as possible with a link to Amazon. And then some of them will click and some of them will land, right? But if it's not a well-intentioned user, that page view is going to be a bounce. They're going to leave from the link that you've sent, that you've got them from. So having this as a health metric kind of helps us contextualize, have we actually shared the right link with the right group of users, and are they going to stay on the platform? Or are we bleeding money on marketing? Make the payment easy, for example. Yeah, if you've made the payment super easy, but there is an external flow where you're accepting payments and you have payment processing errors, that's not something you have any control of. So you need to add that in as a health metric. If the customer is not satisfied with the product that they've received, they're going to return it, but also in a lot of cases, they're going to call customer service. Keep the product regardless, give a call to customer service. Those are behaviors that you need to start tracking. So the health metric section really is what can go wrong on top of the funnel that I've already built. And finally, you need to adjust all of this for measurability, because not all the metrics you have here are measurable. Sometimes the organization you work in might not have the metric, or sometimes the metric might be too convoluted to calculate. So make those smaller adjustments. And second, we as PMs, we never have control over the entire flow of the product. I'm never going to work in Amazon and be accountable for number of transactions on that marketplace. Right? It's too large a product in too large a company. What I usually tend to do is I should be able to track the metrics that my team is optimizing for somewhere in these supporting metrics. If in Amazon, I'm responsible for making sure more people can browse the product, then my primary metric is actually product page views. And that's the supporting metric of the company. And that's the first step of making sure that that alignment exists. And then I repeat the whole process for whichever team, whichever metric I'm working on. So just convert someone else's supporting metric, which is usually the larger organization's supporting metric, into my primary metric, repeat the process, and find the supporting metrics that I care about. And that's kind of my way of arriving at a strategy that works for me and my team, gets us to understand what the most important aspects of our product are, and focuses everyone on getting to that one goal with all the guardrails, with all the product understanding in place. Right, I want to summarize this. First step, we try to understand the product goal, not very detailed, not a vision, not a long-term anything. What are we trying to do today? Second, we define the North Star. Third, we map the user flow. Fourth, we derive the supporting metrics. Fifth, we track the funnel metrics. And sixth, we adjust it for measurability. And specifically on measurability, if we do the entire funnel for Zoom that we were discussing, we would find that if we start to count the number of video calls per week, Zoom starts to have less and less individual users and more business users, which is something that should be captured in your health metrics. And that forces you to think about and revise that metric to number of minutes spent per user, or some form of that. And that's fine, because designing these metrics is usually an iterative process. You have to do this entire funnel 3 or 4 or 5 times until you get to the right one, because you start to discover something going wrong with the health metric, and then you kind of optimize the supporting metric to correct that. Then your North Star changes, and then your health metrics change. That cycle goes on for 3 or 4 times. But once you do that, it becomes very stable, and it can kind of potentially guide your roadmap for a year or more. So I would recommend doing this. It helps teams a lot. And that's where I'll pause. Questions, maybe? But we can talk about metrics more, or we can talk about general PM stuff more. Anything works. It's just that I can't see that.
From Bulgaria.
I was wondering, because you said that maybe we didn't pick the right metric, and it's expected that there will be a couple of iterations in order to make the things right. But how do you know that the metric is not the right one? Because you will try to improve it, see if it's linked with the actual result, but which are like the red flags that we should look for?
So actually, you wouldn't have to go so far as to experiment or see results to find if the metric is the wrong one, because if you pick the wrong metric, your supporting metric or your health metrics start to break. In the Zoom example, for example, if you go with the number of users per week and you're a B2B focused product, it starts to make sense because all of your metrics align yourself to getting more business users. But if you intend to be a B2C product, you'd suddenly start to see spikes in your number of business users. And then you would have to re-index to, okay, I don't want for this one user who spends 100 minutes a day on a call to be my primary audience. So what do I have to do to adjust? So that's kind of how you would catch what metric is right for your product. Is that?
Yeah, thank you.
Maybe one question from me in terms of measurability and who are the essentially counterparts to make sure the measurability is there. I think even with the in Amazon and Facebook, I can imagine they have metrics in place, especially the ones that they represent main parts of the funnel. But then in small organizations, and I can think of Miro as well, sometimes you just don't have the possibility to measure the metric properly. So what do you do in this case? Have you faced such problems?
You used to do this at Booking, and so did I. We just build our own metrics and our own queries and our own graphs, right? Like if you have a partner, it would be a data scientist. That is the best sort of fit. If you don't have a data scientist, talk to a user researcher. They usually have perspectives. If you don't have a user researcher as well, fellow PMs, that always helps. And if you don't have any PMs as well, just build the metrics for yourself, put them in a dashboard, build simple queries, and just get on with it.
Yeah, but then you need to prioritize with developers that it should be there tracked and
yes,
yeah,
yes,
so it should
that
even
needs to happen. Yep, and as a product manager, you would be able to control and influence that. But yeah, none of this works if you're not tracking your data, which sadly not a lot of us do. But track your data.
And in another one, I was thinking, okay, this is good, but do you have examples when this story with metrics didn't go as well as you expected? So, what kind of examples of failure you have about metrics? How did you come up with this framework?
So this one actually happened because we were working on a chat product at Booking, and the idea was that if our customers have problems with any of the booking funnel, then they would open a chat with us and we would connect them to customer service and we would resolve their issues. The idea was really bad. It didn't work at all because we saw that A, we were not able to resolve the issues, and B, not a lot of people wanted to chat with us. We went in with the assumption that everyone who is offered an option to chat is going to chat with us, and all of those people are going to reach a resolution on that chat, right? So the only two things that we were tracking was how many chats started, and out of those, how many chats got resolved, with nothing in between. So when A, we saw less number of chats starting, and B, we saw, because there are such few chats, there's no resolution, we didn't know what was happening. And we didn't know how to debug it. And it was an operations product. So there's a lot of, like about 100 people trained to take that chat who were sitting there doing that. And we didn't know why it was caused. So that's why the whole funnel of, okay, what happens? Who starts the chat? Goes to the next step? What happens after? What happens after? Where does it break? That analysis kind of became important. Usually, like, yeah, again, early in my career, lots of bad decisions with metrics, which kind of leads to something like this.
Cool. So any questions from Sofia?
Yes, we have one more.
Can I have another one? I was also very much concerned about how you collect information about those metrics, but from your experience, what was your biggest bottleneck with like collecting the respective data?
So the biggest challenge when you're beginning to construct metrics is that you won't have the data and you need to prioritize that data. And then you're making the trade-off for yourself of either shipping a feature or investing in data tracking. And I found that PMs as well as engineers, I mean, me as well, right? If you tell me that I'm going to increase the number of transactions on Amazon's marketplace by 50,000 tomorrow, or I'm going to track my data, I'm going to choose the former. And I feel like that choice is what becomes the most difficult for most PMs, where we want to prioritize for impact in the shorter term without tracking for the data. So we as PMs, A, we need to be cognizant of the priority. B, we need to make sure that we're convincing our developers that this is priority. At a point, you would, like, if you've tracked all of your product, you're going to suddenly start missing someone else's tracking. Your visibility into your product is going to stop when your team no longer has control over it. So convincing those stakeholders to track their own metrics, that starts to become a challenge as well. So the effort that metrics require you to put in the short term, that's usually the most difficult.
Thank you.
If I may, just last one. I was thinking when you were talking about that from the essentially individual contributor point of view, if you own the product, but if you are managing other product managers, how do you make sure that they, you know, also applied similar approach? Was like something that you expect them to do? Do you have examples when, you know, a person was not doing or not following the some kind of standards that you expected, and then you had to work with the person?
So I feel this becomes much easier in B2C setups than in B2B setups, because I can easily solve this problem in a B2C setup with goaling, right? Like, what's the success of your team? It is to increase the number of transactions by X%. And then you're forced to start tracking those metrics. If you were my manager and you told me, you know what, your success is going to be measured by the number of people who have a Zoom call every day, I need to start tracking that. Otherwise, I'm not able to show results. It becomes a lot more complicated in B2B environments because enterprise products are generally not conducive to North Stars. But this has been my experience with B2C, like getting the goals in order, getting the impact in order, and making sure that success for the entire team, not just the product manager, is measured on tangible metrics impact.
All right. So, Sofia, any last questions or?
Not really. It is very interesting for us, and I will encourage everyone who is attending online to turn on the camera and make one good group photo of the event. Do you agree?
Let's see.
Not really. It will be nice photo, really. Okay, and
how do you want to make the photo? Svetlana, you just take a screenshot and that's it.
Yeah, I'm just making a screenshot, but no one shows up. Come on, people, turn on the cameras. Even if you're in pajamas and kids are around, like.
no.
Okay, that's okay.
Okay, so from our side, it is very interesting and we don't have additional questions. Everything was clearly stated and we are looking for more information maybe in the future.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Thanks a lot, Pranav. It was really, I really like the talk because it was, you know, a conversation rather than a talk, instead of just listening to and showing and seeing your slides. We I think had with this group a good conversation. thanks everyone who joined. At this point, we will just disconnect, and Pranav, hope you can stay for a little bit with this small group and we can chat about some Amsterdam stuff.
Thank you for setting up, Sultan. And thanks for having me.
Bulgaria. Sorry.
Right. Go ahead, Krasimira.
Yeah, we will do the same in Bulgaria. So thanks again and bye from Bulgaria.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks.
Thanks, everyone.
Have a great
Bye-bye.
evening.
Bye-bye.
Bye.